This is Professor Jameson. This video is on how to draft a complaint in California. Um, there are basically two types of complaints. One are what we call judicial council form complaints, and hopefully you'll cover that in the forms class. I think they're teaching that right now, federal and California forms and procedures. And I'm going to have you do a little assignment with that later on. But I'm going to talk about drafting a complaint from scratch and going through it. So when you see a complaint, you know, at least even if you don't draft them, you know what they look like. This should be covered also in civil procedure, but I don't know how many of you have that. So this should be a really good lecture. But before we get going, I want to tell you about an invaluable resource that all civil litigators like myself use when we are going to draft a complaint. It's called California Forms of Pleading and Practice, and it's a Matthew Bender publication. Every law library has it. And if you listen to my earlier lecture about how to use the law library, go find it in the paper, ask the law librarian where California Forms of Pleading Practice. You look it up, and what they have is they have short summaries of the law, but they have like sample complaints that you can use to draft your own complaints. So if you get an assignment that is like, oh, okay, I need causes of action on this, or whatever, then you can go to the law library and get copies of their samples and use them. Remember, that's pretty much what we do if we can in the law. We try to recycle other people's work. As an attorney and a civil litigator, there are probably three resources that I could use and not practice with anything else for the most part, which is California Forms of Pleading Practice, as I just said, California Points and Authorities that we'll get into later in the class, and the Rudder Group on Civil Procedure. Those three resources I probably used in my practice 90% of the time. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to actually go through a complaint. Okay, on the website for this week, there is a sample complaint. And what I recommend that you do is stop the video right now and print that out, because I'm going to be going through it page by page, showing you what's going on when we draft a complaint, or what we call a pleading. Okay, now why is it called a pleading? Okay, a complaint, as John Travolta said in A Civil Action, which is one of the great law movies, and I recommend that you see it. He said a complaint is a declaration of war. Okay, and it is. What we're doing is we're saying we can't resolve our disputes among ourselves, so we're going to go to the court and plead the court for a resolution of our dispute. Okay, we're asking the court to right the wrong or the injustice that we suffered. Okay, that was the whole point of courts, is so we resolve things instead of like hand-to-hand combat, or maybe hiring a champion to do our battle for us. Okay, so without any other ado, I'm going to go through this right now. Okay, so this is a complaint. I've got it here. You're not going to be able to see it on the video very well, but this is a complaint it's a real case that I handled a long time ago. This is a complaint, and we'll just go through it paragraph by paragraph. Let's start at the top. Okay, at the top of the complaint, and maybe I can get it here. Okay, this area here. Okay, that is where the attorney's name goes, or if someone's not represented by an attorney, they're going to be what we call in pro per, and just their name will go there. Okay, when you put the attorney's name at the top, his bar number always goes right next to that. Okay, then all the contact information regarding the attorney is there, and then on the line below that, that tells you who the attorney represents, whether it's a plaintiff or defendant. If there's several defendants, we'll identify which defendant we are representing. If there's only one plaintiff, we can just put the word plaintiff there. Okay, the next part here, that tells you the court. Okay, in this case, it's Kern County, Superior Court of the State of California, County for Kern. Okay, also, as you notice, the lines are numbered. Okay, this is called pleading paper. Okay, the reason the lines are numbered is because we have to refer to the complaint or direct the court's attention to a particular part of the complaint, because even though this one's fairly short, they can be really long. You can go right to the page and line number that we're looking at. Okay, most Microsoft Office programs have an actual way to set this up. Some firms still do it the old way with actual pleading paper, but you can use the computer program in Microsoft Office to draft a complaint like this. Okay, but just be careful. Each place has their own little local rules, and the Microsoft version might not conform to those. So with that in mind, be careful. Okay, this section here is called the bird cage. Okay, what does it enclose? It encloses the names of the parties. If we look here, we identify the plaintiff, and we identify the names of the defendants, and then DOE defendants. I'll get into that in a minute. And then over here, if I use my hands, okay, that tells you what the complaint is for. This is for personal injuries, for damages, basically money damages. And there says a place for the case number. The reason that is blank is because the court, when we file the document, this is usually the first document we file in a case, will assign a case number to it. They actually stamp it on the original. Okay. Okay. Now, after the bird cage, which is this area here, then we begin with what we call general allegations. Okay. General allegations are merely identifying the parties and the facts that make up the reason we're in court and the lawsuit. Okay. You also see that the paragraphs are numbered. In my version, actually, there's 2 paragraph number 1, so there's a little typo. But every paragraph is numbered, and we usually start with identifying the plaintiff, then identifying the defendant or defendants in the case. Okay. Now, paragraph 3, I want you to look at it. It has to do with DOE defendants. Okay. DOE defendants are people we might want to sue, but we don't know who they are at this time. And why do we have to sue them as DOEs? Is because if we don't, and we want to amend our complaint and add a new party, maybe somebody else who might be responsible, the statute of limitations continues to run. But if we fictitiously sue them as a DOE defendant, then we can name them in later. Okay, it's a procedural thing. That's something more appropriate to cover in civil procedure. Okay, so the next paragraph that I want to talk about is paragraph 5. That has to do with all the defendants basically being employed or agents of the others and approved of their acts. Okay, these are just merely allegations. You know, we don't necessarily have to prove every particular fact. We're just trying to preserve our rights for later. Okay, then we go into the particular facts in paragraph 7 of this complaint. Okay, it has to do with a chemical spill that occurred, or not a chemical spill, but some gases that were released at a plant in McKittrick. And I'm not going to go through these paragraph by paragraph, but you can look at those. And basically, well, there's only actually a couple. Okay, at the bottom of the page, you see those lines, hash lines. Those are, I'm not looking at the bottom of page 2. Those are, because we don't like to start new paragraphs or new headings at the bottom of the page. It looks awkward, so we just move it to the next page. Okay, so those are the general allegations. Okay, then we have what we call our causes of action. Okay, I'm on the top of page 3 of my example. The first cause of action in this case is negligence. Okay, you have to have legal theories. You have to have some reason that the court can give you in the law to get what you want. Okay, in this case, we have 3 causes of action. That's one of the reasons I use this complaints, because that's more than one. Okay, the first cause of action is negligence. I'm not going to go into the elements of negligence, but look at paragraph 9. Okay, all paragraph 9 does, that's called an incorporation by reference paragraph. And what paragraph 9 does is it just takes all of the general allegations and puts them into this cause of action so we don't have to type them out again. Okay, that's the only reason for paragraph 9. Okay, the rest of these have to do with the elements of negligence. When you do pleadings and you're pleading a particular legal theory, you have to hit each and every element of that legal theory to show the court that you can recover. For example, in negligence, the elements are duty, breach, causation, and damages. Okay, and so you have to plead each of those in your cause of action. Otherwise, your cause of action might be kicked out court on a thing called a demur. Okay, but we'll save that for civil procedure. Okay, the next cause of action, if we go down to the bottom of page 3, is called negligence per se, and I don't want to get into the theories on that. That's just another legal theory that we might recover under, and the court can give us what we want. And then the third cause of action is strict liability, which has to do with liability without fault. In this case, the theory would be that they released a dangerous gas into the atmosphere, and the activity was so dangerous that they should be liable regardless of whether there was fault or not. Okay. Now, let's go to page 5, the end of the complaint. Okay. The prayer is where we pray to the court to get the relief that we want. So I'll just read it out. Wherefore, plaintiff plays for judgment against defendants in each of them on each and every cause of action as follows. Now, in the prayer, for some reason, we start lettering the little indentations as opposed to numbering the paragraphs. Why that is, I don't know. It's just something that attorneys have been doing. I was taught to do it, and everybody does it. Okay, so what do we want in this case? What do we want the court to do? We want general and special damages according to proof. Okay, what does that mean? Money. Okay, that's what we're in it for, right? Okay, for costs of suit. Okay, filing fees, whatever costs we incur. Interest, and we always put the last one for such other and further relief as the court may deem just and proper. Okay, we just throw that in as a catch-all in case we miss something. Okay, that is my little lecture on complaints. Okay, I will have an assignment for you in a little bit on what to do. Okay, but the most important thing to remember is California Forms of Pleading and Practice is the best resource in California to give you examples of complaints that you can use to draft your complaints if you get an assignment. Okay, have a nice day. That's the end of this lecture.